As we continue to carefully coexist with the COVID-19 virus, it's also important to remember that other things like fires, earthquakes, and accidents still happen. Welcome to Take Notice. I'm your host, Jean Joh, and our guest today is Sandra Firpo, the Emergency Services Specialist with the San Mateo Consolidated Fire Department. She'll be joining us remotely via Zoom, but first, please watch this teaser.
Disasters and emergency preparedness is not something that is seasonal. It's something that should be part of our routine.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H,
Fires are categorized into different types: A, B, C, D, and K.
W, X, Y, and Z.
Now you can buy a fancy one in a fancy case, or you can assemble your own in a cardboard box. Make sure everyone in the home knows where the first aid kit is located. Our next item on the top 5 is a go bag. Just as the name implies, it's a bag you can grab and go when time is of the essence. Each person in your home should have their own go bag, something they can grab and go. And if you have pets, they should have a go bag too. How we recover from disasters is very important, and having access to important information will make filling out claim forms and the process of recovery so much easier. You can make copies of your vital documents and keep them in a binder, or take photos of them and put them onto a thumb drive, storage device, or upload them onto the cloud. After you duck, cover, and hold on, and the shaking has stopped, chances are you and everyone you know is going to be jumping onto the phone and calling each other in this local area.
Sandra, welcome to Take Notice.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's great when I can talk about my favorite subject, which is preparedness.
I'm definitely going to watch the full video and check to make sure my family has checked off the important steps. For one thing, I've been meaning to get a kitchen fire extinguisher for years now, but I keep putting it on the back burner. I'll be sure to get one today. I've heard that you shouldn't use the kitchen fire extinguisher for a grease fire. Is that right?
Well, fire extinguishers, like any tool that you might use at home for any reason, come in different categories because fires have 5 different categories. The most common fire extinguisher people have in their home is an A, B, C fire extinguisher, which covers regular combustibles, things like paper and fabrics and that sort of thing, wood. B for liquids that can burn, such as oil and grease. And C covers electrical fires. So the chemical components inside of a fire extinguisher, like the one over my shoulder here, is an ABC, covers ABC type fires. So that's what you would normally have in your home. Now, keep in mind when you depress the fire extinguisher and out comes all of that foam, it's going to come out with a lot of force. So the danger is that it could, if you're having a grease fire on your stove, that it could sprinkle and spatter that grease all over the place and therefore spread the fire. So the best thing, of course, is a precautionary, steps that you can take. And one of the things that I try to do whenever I'm cooking on the stove, first of all, I never leave a stove unattended. Secondly, I would have a cover and an oven mitt nearby all the time. If something should catch fire on your stove, you can pop on that oven mitt, turn off the heat, and take that cover and slide it on over the pan or pot that's burning, that's on fire. And then let everything, step back and let everything cool off before you move anything. Don't take a hot pot and try to move it into the sink. But taking preventative steps like that prevention is so much better than having to deal with the aftermath of a fire, for example.
So speaking of which then, are there any other tips in terms of prevention or otherwise that you'd like to share regarding home fires?
Well, one thing, we all have a lot of electrical devices these days. We love our devices and we're charging, we're plugging, and when there's a free plug, we're plugging stuff in. Well, just because there's a free plug doesn't mean you need to use it. You don't want to overload your outlets or even your power surge protectors because, if they're looking like octopuses, then there's a problem. You're overloading it. So that's one. Two is running cords underneath a rug and people put the rug over it so people don't trip over the cord. But remember, a cord, if you picture an electrical cord, inside the cord is a bunch of little wires. And every time you're walking over that, you're fraying those little wires, and that can cause a spark. So we want to prevent that as well. And then one of the most remarkably flammable items we all have in our homes that we often overlook is the lint in the filter of your clothes dryer. So every time you're going to put a load in your clothes dryer, please check the lint filter. Some of those pull out and you can remove the lint and throw it away. Or some of them are built into the door or the edges of the dryer itself. So before putting anything in the dryer, just clean out the lint filter. It's one more step towards prevention. And these are just some things that people can do to lower any possibility of a home fire.
And what about smoke alarms?
Smoke alarms. So I happen to have a smoke alarm. Smoke alarms are, again, wonderful tools. They give you and your family extra time. They only work, of course, if the battery is in them. A lot of people tend to take the batteries out, and then it's a piece of plastic on your wall doing nothing. Smoke alarms are relatively inexpensive. They now have 10-year smoke alarms where you don't have to change the battery in them, so it's really easy. You just test them once a month or so, and you're good to go. And they give you that extra time to get out of your home and practice what you should have already planned for, which is an escape plan. And if you think about it, you want to have not just 2 ways out of your home, but 2 ways out of each room in your home. In Millbrae and in my agency as well, in San Mateo, Foster City, and Belmont, we offer a Get Ready class to our community. And that's one of the things we cover is making a plan for your family to get out in case of a fire or any type of emergency. And always having 2 ways out of each room is really important. And often people overlook the window. So that's something to consider and discuss with your family when things are calm.
Okay, and how would somebody find out about that class or sign up for it? Just on your website?
So the Get Ready class is run by your fire department. So you want to check with the fire department in your area, whoever covers your fire department. In my area, San Mateo, Foster City, and Belmont, it's the San Mateo Consolidated Fire Department. In Millbrae, it's Central County Fire, and they do a terrific job.
Great. And in 2019, we were introduced to a new type of alert called the PSPS. Can you tell us what those are, and can we expect more of those in the future?
Yes. So PSPS stands for Public Safety Power Shutoff. And that is something that was after the terrible wildfires that we've had in Santa Rosa, for example, in North Bay, and in Paradise, Redding, those areas. A lot was learned. And in some cases, those were started by sparks from hot equipment. So the utility companies that run cables and wires and distribution lines throughout California, so all through California, all the utility companies have taken it upon themselves to develop this PSPS. When weather conditions are very dry, very windy, and low humidity, they may call for a PSPS alert, and that means they will turn off the power in a given area, and not just the area where the remote areas. They can certainly, people will remember from 2019, their power was out, I believe in Millbrae, San Bruno, parts of San Mateo, for several days. So this is a reality for all of us, regardless of where we live, because power lines run throughout the state. So the power line may be developed way up in the mountains, but it still runs through your area. Therefore, you will be affected. So for us, that means we have to be ready for the development of a PSPS and the need to be without power for several days. So because PSPS is a reality, we have to think about certain things that we rely on when power goes out. One of those, of course, is our refrigerator, any refrigerated items. If you have any medical devices that require electricity, you need to have backup battery power or backup options on how to get those charged. How are you going to charge your phone and any of your devices? You want to think about that. And keep in mind, this can last for several days, 3 to 7 days, depending on the situation and how long of a windstorm or a weather event. You want to be sure that you get signed up with PG&E for their zip code alerts. They work really hard to make sure to notify us 48 hours in advance, 24 hours in advance, and the day of a PSPS shutoff. So that is a new alerts that we've just experienced starting last year, and they will continue for the foreseeable future.
Okay, thank you. And after the long shelter in place, many are exploring and traveling more. Any safety tips for viewers who are about to take a trip?
Well, have a great trip, and the best part about a trip, I think, is planning it. And one of the things you want to plan for is making sure you have a few things to make your family comfortable and a little safer. So you definitely want to have your first aid kit. Something like this doesn't have to be a fancy case. It could be anything that you put together with your things. But if you purchase any pre-made kit, and a lot of them are terrific, whether they be an emergency kit or a first aid kit, the important thing is to customize it. Make it your own. What are some of the things you need? If you have allergies, you want to make sure there's allergy medication, motion sickness medication. If you have, preventative allergies, that sort of thing, but also, bee stings, anti-itch, all those good things. But, I wear prescription eyeglasses, so I always like to have an extra pair, my old pair of glasses, in my emergency bag or first aid kit that I'm going to take with me on a trip, because if I lose my glasses or they break, at least I have a backup pair. Anything that you use that makes you comfortable, you want to make sure to include on that. And make sure that you do a little research in advance and make sure you're familiar with where the emergency room nearest you or the clinic nearest where you're staying is located, just in case. And one thing that we should do here when we're home, but also wherever we travel, there's the Smc Alerts, which is something that our county provides, but every county has some form of alert system. I spent about a week in Calaveras County last summer with my family, and since I'm not familiar with the area, I signed up for their alert on my phone. So if something were to happen, it would give me that little extra time to adjust and figure out what I was going to do. So any reliable information, that's your friend.
That's great thinking to plan that in advance. I don't think I've done that before, but definitely going to be doing that ahead. So the wildfires that affected the North Bay and Paradise showed us that even if you live in a city, you can be impacted by wildfire. Anything our viewers can do to protect themselves and our community?
Well, you want to do some what's called defensible space. We hear that a lot in rural areas where they're asked to put out 100 feet of defensible space. But here in the peninsula, we want to also do that as well at a smaller level, of course. So check around your yard, any weeds, any high bushes, especially anything that's dry. You want to eliminate that, cut it back, keep things trimmed low. Don't have any, you want to check your gutters, of course. Anything where dry leaves or needles can accumulate and dry out, and therefore it's just that much easier for a spark to catch. So you want to take anything that's dry, anything that's dead, check your trees, low branches, all those things, and trim them back. And make sure that all your plants and everything are healthy, because that reduces, again, any possibility of a spark catching and things going. And remember, we think of wildfires and big disasters that are regional, like earthquakes, or the pandemic that we're going through right now, which is worldwide. But if your house burns down, that's a disaster to you and your family, no doubt. So please do what you can to prevent anything like that.
Okay. And any last tips to help our viewers be better prepared?
One of the things that we always come across is people are like, well, I have to devote an entire weekend and spend thousands of dollars in order to be prepared. Preparedness is routine. It should be part of your daily life. So the next time you go to the grocery store, for example, pick up an extra case of water. The next time, pick up an extra case of batteries. So it's just, normal parts of what you do just to be sure that your household is ready. If you, like I said, if you buy one of those emergency kits, those are terrific. But a lot of people will buy the backpack, for example, they'll throw them into the closet, and it's like, yeah, I'm prepared. Well, no, because you don't really know what's in there, and it's not customized to you and what your needs or your family's needs are. So if you go with a purchased kit, great. Open it up, open all the packaging, see what you've got, and customize it. What do you like to have? I like to have wet wipes. I like to have a pair of scissors. I make sure that the flashlight has batteries, that sort of thing. And some people, have different types of lamps. This one, for example, solar powered. I'm not recommending anything in particular, but it's just another option, so I don't have to rely on something that's plugged in. Some people like the headlamps, the ones that you wear on your head, because your hands are free, right? So think about what works for you and your family and make it as comfortable for you as possible. And certainly any medications that you take, you would want to include 3 to 7 days worth in your emergency kit as well. Take a class. There are lots of classes. They really increase your skills, but also your confidence. So look into first aid, CPR, and something called CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team. They're very active throughout the peninsula. Millbrae has a terrific team. It's run by the fire department there, and you can look into classes. And of course now with COVID-19, we've had to make some adjustments, and a lot of the classes will be partially online and partially in person, depending on how things move as far as what the safety protocol may be. But it's certainly worth the effort. So thank you for looking into it and taking the time to take the classes when you can.
Well, I know our viewers are very motivated to see your full video with the answers to our teaser questions. Check it out at the web address on our screen, or better yet, we're going to show Sandra's full video on important ways your family can be ready for an emergency right now.
So keep in mind that this video was created at the very beginning of the shelter in place. So they asked for 5 tips of things you can do while at home. So these are things that will increase your preparedness, and you don't even have to leave home to do them. So I hope you enjoy it.
That's fantastic. So thank you, Sandra, and thank you, viewers, for watching MCTV's Take Notice. Please like our program and share. Stay safe.
Disasters and emergency preparedness is not something that is seasonal. It's something that should be part of our routine. When things are uncertain, there are things that we can control, and among them is preparedness. But how do we help ourselves and our families, our homes, be better prepared? Here are the top 5 things that you can do during sheltering in place to be better prepared and get you started. Fire extinguishers, first aid kit, go bag, copies of important documents, and an out-of-state contact. Now, let's go over some of these items and actions. Fire extinguishers. Fire extinguishers are a tool, and like any tool, you want to make sure you have the right one for the job. Fires are categorized into different types: A, B, C, D, and K. A-type fires are the most common combustibles such as wood, paper, cardboard, fabrics, and such. B fires are liquids that burn, such as oil, grease, and gasoline. C fires are electrical fires. D-type fires are combustible metals like magnesium, titanium, usually found in industrial settings. And K-type fires are things that would burn in a commercial kitchen situation, such as grease, animal fat, and oil. So the most common type of fire extinguisher for the home is an ABC fire extinguisher. If you enter fire extinguisher into your favorite search engine, you should find a good selection. But the most important thing to remember if you do come across a small fire is to get everyone out safely, and be sure to call 911 so you get help rolling to your location. Next item, first aid kits. Now you can buy a fancy one in a fancy case, or you can assemble your own in a cardboard box. Here are some suggested items that you may want to include in your first aid kit, and most things you'll probably already have in your home. Think about your family's needs and add what you feel is most useful to you. But the most important thing is to make sure everyone in the home knows where the first aid kit is located. Our next item on the top 5 is a go bag. Just as the name implies, it's a bag you can grab and go when time is of the essence. Here are some items that you may want to include. And be sure to include something that is of comfort to you. Reading material, a small sewing kit, wet wipes, even your favorite hard candy. Each person in your home should have their own go bag, something they can grab and go. And if you have pets, they should have a go bag too. Customize your go bag for things you would need quickly, if you had to leave home for 3 to 7 days. Now let's talk about important documents. We think of emergencies and disasters as something major, like a wildfire or an earthquake that affects a large region, or the COVID-19 pandemic, which is global. But if your house were to burn down, that would be no less a disaster to you and your family. How we recover from disasters is very important, and having access to important information will make filling out claim forms and the process of recovery so much easier. You can make copies of your vital documents and keep them in a binder, or take photos of them and put them onto a thumb drive, storage device, or upload them onto the cloud. If you choose a thumb drive or a binder, you'd keep this in a safe place away from your home, such as a bank safety deposit box, or in the drawer of the home of a trusted family member. If you take photos of your documents, please erase them from your camera or phone after you've saved them onto the thumb drive. What documents should you keep copies of? This is up to you, but here are some items to get you started. Let's talk about having an out-of-state contact. This is a simple but crucial part of your disaster preparedness plan, how you and your friends are going to communicate with each other in an emergency. When something happens in our area, let's say an earthquake, after you duck, cover, and hold on, and the shaking has stopped, chances are you and everyone you know is going to be jumping onto the phone and calling each other in this local area. So phone lines and cell phone towers are going to be jammed, and your calls are not going to have the ease of getting through as they usually would. But if you're calling an out-of-state contact, your odds are much better of being able to get through. In a regional emergency, you can call your out-of-state contact and briefly let him or her know your status and your plans. Your out-of-state contact will tell you who else they've heard from, so you'll know how others are. Most importantly, everyone in your family should know who the out-of-state contact is and put that number into their phone. These are just some basics to get you started on your preparedness. For more information on emergency preparedness, please check out the San Mateo Consolidated Fire Department website at smcfire.org. As you may know, about 1.5 years ago, the 3 fire departments from the cities of Belmont, Foster City, and San Mateo merged together and became one agency, now known as San Mateo Consolidated Fire Department. We are proud to serve the residents of Belmont, Foster City, and San Mateo. Thank you for tuning in, and be well.